Hello, and welcome once again to Life That Matters with Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott. And it's a good thing that the show is named that because that's me. I'd like to welcome you back once again and to let you know that here at Life That Matters, if you've never been with us before, what I like to do is to encourage you in knowing how much your life matters for God and with God. And the way I do that is by interviewing other people who are just like you, just like me, who are, their lives matter and they're doing different things for the kingdom and in the kingdom. So I figure if we get to know each other as we are doing what God has called us to do, right, then you would get the idea, you know what, I can do the things that God has put in my heart. And I know that God loves me in those things. So you see, you kind of see how my brain was working with that? I hope so. So we're going to get started today. I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Nikki Hertzler, and she is actually one of my clients in my literary agency. I have the honor of being her agent. And she has written a book. Now, the book's not quite coming out yet, but we're going to talk about the subject of her book because it is a very important one that more of us really could get involved with. So first, Nikki, I'd like you to say hello to our audience. Just, your initial hi.
I am delighted to be here. Hello. Thank you very much for having me on.
You are very welcome. Now, Nikki and I met through an internet writers conference, right, Nikki?
And those are just as valuable as the in-person ones. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was an online writers conference, and I had the honor and privilege of being on the faculty, and I get to teach different subjects, right, to budding writers, or you don't have to be a budding writer, you can be someone who's been in the business for a while. We're always learning. And then you come in as a conferee, and you could tune in, right, to all the different workshops or a certain number of them or what have you, and you can listen and you can learn and you can interact, right? And so, Nikki, do you remember, you don't have to, do you remember the class or classes that you took with me at the conference that we met at?
Oh, wow. Yes. And actually, this last one I remember being when you were explaining how to use the table of contents and the synopsis of each chapter as an outline and going on. We met 2 years ago at the 2021 at a round table where you were the agent, you were in charge of the round table. And so there were about 8 or 9 of us there telling about our works in progress. You're a great listener.
Well, thank you. Yeah, a round table is just what, most of the time they're square. But anyway.
Or little rectangles on the screen, yes.
Or rectangles. Yeah, but the whole idea of the round table is that you kind of pitch your idea to the group, right? And the group gives you some cool feedback. The person leading the group, and that would have been me in this case, gives you some feedback, helps you along with whatever, right? Maybe I have some questions about whether your audience is defined enough, right, for what you're writing, or perhaps thinking, exploring as to whether you have enough material for that topic or too much. Maybe you're looking at 2 books, right? And so we just talk those things out, right, at a round table. So Nikki shared with me that one of the joys of her heart is what she has ended up writing her book about. And Nikki, why don't you share with us what that is?
So I've worked with children all my life, and yes, and so we're now what we're doing, besides I'm teaching, my husband and I are fostering.
Hmm. So can you explain a little bit about what that entails?
I could go on and on about what it entails.
Okay,
Yes.
so what is fostering?
So right now we are fostering through our local county, and we take in children who need a home, who need a place to be safe temporarily. And sometimes these temporary placements end up not being so temporary, but there's all different kinds. You hear stereotypical foster care situations, but there might be stereotypes, but all of them are different too. So many variations.
Okay, so in a nutshell, fostering, to be a foster parent or to foster a child, is to take a child into your home for a, period of time. And you don't know, sometimes we don't know how long that's going to be, but
You never know.
the idea of being a foster parent is that it's usually a temporary.
It is supposed to be
situation.
temporary. Yes, the goal is to reunify with a family.
Okay.
And that's what the goal is for reunification. And we've had placements as short as 2 weeks, and they call that an emergency placement. And they knew he would be reunified very quickly with a family member. And we've had our longest placement has been 15 months, and we're about to have another of that same length too.
Okay. So just to give, our audience, because our audience here at HSBN is actually worldwide. And so I don't know if every country has a system like this. So that's why I wanted to go back to the basic definition, right, of fostering. So when there's a child in an emergency situation, or for whatever reason, this child cannot live with their family, they need a place. They need to go somewhere. And what we do here in the United States is there's a system called the foster care system. And people who have room in their home and in their heart for children but sign up, right, with this system. And I'm sure there's an evaluation process and all of that. But in essence, you sign up with the system to be a foster parent. And then when a child becomes available, when there's a child in need, then the system will match them up, basically, with you. So in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, yes. And those needs are varied. It could be both parents have passed away in a car accident all of a sudden. That sort of a need also. Some kind of trauma, usually. Yes.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in fostering?
My husband and I have 3 of our own biological children. And they, one became an adult, and another graduated high school, and our third one was about to graduate high school and go out on his own. And we have a wonderful house. God has blessed us with a wonderful home and neighborhood and support system around us. And my husband Jeff, he looked at me, he said, we should be foster parents. And I
So
said,
it was your husband's idea.
It was his initially. Yes, it was.
Interesting. Okay.
And so we have a 5-bedroom house, and we decided, why would it be empty? Why keep it empty? Let's foster. Let's take in these children in need. Let's give them opportunities that they would be missing, and do something for God.
Wow. I mean, that is wonderful. I know I hear, some of my friends, and probably me. Yeah, I'm thinking me. When my kids got grown and moved out, it was like, yes, okay. empty nest. We're ready. We're done. Okay, we can do some stuff. But you guys thought about, wow, we have some empty bedrooms, and why not bring some kids in who need us? That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I love that. And that it was your husband's idea. You know, when I think about just that kind of decision, so I've always thought of it as a woman, you know, still feeling that mothering instinct, right? I still want some kids to mother. But that was so wonderful. I love it.
Probably is good for my own children. Then I don't hover and helicopter over them anymore.
That's true. That's a good reason as well, right? You don't have to be a helicopter parent over your own kids who've moved out, who's like, can I have some breathing room, Mom, please?
Right.
Okay.
Mama is very busy, yes.
So is there a huge need for foster parents, or it's like, are there enough families? What is the need?
In our country, in the United States, there are about 400,000 children in foster care right now.
400,000.
About 100,000 of those are waiting
Okay.
for a permanent placement to be adopted.
Wow.
But if you think about it, here in the same country, we have over 350,000 Bible-believing churches. So if everyone would take one or two, that would probably be temporarily solved for a while.
Okay, I love those numbers. Okay, so there are about 400,000. So let me just repeat that and make sure I got it. About 400,000 children in the foster care system. Okay.
Plus. Yeah,
So
hovering around 400,000 to 500,000, right?
Okay, so that means these are children who need at least a temporary place to stay.
Right.
Or they're already in those temporary places to stay.
Good question. If they're not in a foster home, they would be in a group home. And then, of course, you hear the stories of they're in the Child Protective Services offices. They put up playpens in their offices because there are no homes to send them to. So there is that kind of a need, yes.
Okay, so there is definitely a need. If they're putting up playpens in the foster care offices because there's just not enough group homes.
Right.
Incredible.
Group homes and family homes.
And family homes. Okay, and the other part of that number, you said 350,000 Christian churches. So if one family in every Christian church would care for a child, almost all of those children would be in Christian homes.
Even better. Yes, exactly. And most of those children are going to be part of a sibling set. So usually when you take one of the children, you would take a sibling too. So there you go.
Okay, so I just finished doing 2 shows, a couple of, the last week from the time that this show airs, the last week and the week before, I would urge my audience to go back and look at those shows, because what we were talking about in those shows was child evangelism and winning children to Christ and, you know, bringing children to Christ. So we could think about, we could have a concerted effort in the church to win 400,000 children to Jesus. Do you know what that would do to society?
What a revival.
Even if those children would need to go back to their family homes, they would not go back alone. They would go back with Jesus.
The word of God is not return void. They would be taking it with them. Yes.
So and like as you just said, what a revival could be started. Wow. That's something to think about. So tell me then, who can be a foster parent?
Really, anyone can be a foster parent. We were in class with a lot of young couples. We were in class with old couples, like us, singles. There's if you've heard of a man named Chris Norton, sorry, he's a football player, and he was injured playing football in college, or high school, and he's a paraplegic now. And he and his wife Emily, they foster, and they've adopted 5. So if they can do it, they're a great example there.
Okay, so you also said even single people
These days, yes.
can foster. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What are the requirements of becoming a foster parent? Like, is there an age, range? Do you have to make a certain amount of money? What would I be looking at if I went into the office and said, hey, I want to be a foster parent?
So I'll tell you our experience with our county within our state, not because that's all I know, but it's probably similar around the country. We had to have 30 hours of training, and that's on trauma and generational poverty and what resources are out there. We had to get a certain kind of fire extinguisher for our home. You have to have smoke detectors that are connected electrically. You have to have a certain amount of square footage for the children. Their bedroom. They have to have either all girls or all boys up at a certain age. They need their own bed, and yeah. Otherwise, yeah.
Okay, so the room in your home, the type of fire extinguishers and things of that nature. Okay.
That's always, every year we have to get that recertified. You have to get fingerprinted. You have to have a tuberculosis test and pass that.
Okay.
So many hoops.
Yeah. So you go through. I suppose there's something of a checklist. What office? Where do you go? Is it called the foster care office? Where do you go?
If you type in your county name and foster care, that will take you to the right link.
Okay.
Otherwise, a lot of times it's called Child Protective Services. Sometimes the Department of Children's Health or Human Services.
Okay, Child Protective Services. Okay, but you would check in with your county, and I guess you could probably go to Google and type in foster care.
And there are a lot of private organizations too. I don't know anything about those, so I can't talk to that.
Okay, now I didn't know that there were private organizations that
I think so.
help. Okay, that through which you could go to be a foster parent. Now you have mentioned a couple of times the word adoption. So how is adoption related to the foster care system?
A lot of the training is the same. Basically, all the training is the same in our county. You just have to get a physical from your doctor, and then you can adopt. And when a child is in foster care, the goal is usually reunification, but a lot of time, or not a lot of times, but some of the times, they will know this child's not going back. He's available to be adopted. In our county, if you want to adopt, you have to foster that child for 6 months before you can officially adopt him.
Okay. All right. And now I'm sure it is so difficult, no matter whether you knew or not that the child was going to be reunited with their family. It has to be extremely difficult to let that child go. How do you deal with that?
Not very well sometimes.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of times it's a happy time, right? And you're going to remain in that child's life, which is such a blessing, and see them grow, still grow, have a relationship with their parents still. usually it's just, okay, God, they're yours. Sorry, we're going through that
Oh,
right now.
oh,
Yes.
yeah.
It's just like your own children. You have to give them to God. They're not yours. Your own children aren't yours, and these adopted ones aren't either. Or,
And
or
and
these
Nikki, that's a wonderful point. Our own children aren't ours. They're on loan to us from God. And we do a lot of letting go as our children grow older. I'm watching my son and his wife with my grandchildren, and watching those grandchildren grow, and taking them to school. That is a letting go. Um, Taking them, seeing them on a sports team, and watching someone else coach them, right? A letting go. Then the big one, of course, when they go away to college, that's a letting go. And, giving them away in marriage is a letting go. And so,
seeing them drive their car off for the first time.
seeing them drive their car away from the house, right? That's a big one. All right, so we are letting go
Little by little.
little by little. And we definitely have to let them go and make their own decisions as they get older. And so the letting go of a foster child, can bring about those that same amount of angst, right? Is he going to be all right? Right? Is he going back to the same situation he came out of? Etc. And again, our point about introducing these young children to Jesus, that especially when we have to let them go, we know that they're not going back alone, right? They're going back with the God of the universe surrounding them, and with everything that they have. What would you say to someone who basically says, you know what, that is too much trouble, it just sounds too hard?
I would say get to your knees in prayer and see what God is calling you to do. We all have something that God is calling us to do, to obey him in, and it's going to be hard. He's calling us out of our comfort zone so many times, and you have to step out on a limb sometimes. Yes, this is the hardest thing Jeff and I have done. The good times and the bad times, and yes, it's hard. But
And how many children have you fostered over the years?
Our current one, she's our 10th one.
Wow.
And we've had ages from, we got her when she was 5 weeks old, and we've had ages up to 9. We haven't gone over that, so I can't experience the teenage angst and all that, those issues that come with that.
But you had a 9-year-old come to your home.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
she came when she was 8. She came with her little sister, 15 months.
Wow.
And they were both a delight, beautiful little girls. And with her, she's been our oldest one. And she loved to go to church with us. If we had had her a little longer, I think she probably would have given her heart to Jesus.
Well, I know those seeds were planted. Loving to go to church is the first step, right? Into that. So I can hear in your voice how hard it is to let go, especially when you had a baby, right? From so young. But you have done, like you said, you pray about it to see if it's something you even want to do, and then through your time of keeping the child, you're going to be in prayer, just like you would be if this was a natural child, right? You're going to be in prayer for this baby, for this little girl, this little boy, who you have rescued which is a wonderful way, I think, to look at fostering. It has been a rescue.
Well,
And
and it's all through, I mean, we do it for God and we do it with his strength. And every, yes, daily being in prayer.
yeah. Well, we haven't even touched on the book that you have written, so we're going to push that into the next show that we're going to do. So if you are watching today, you will not want to miss next week because Nikki will be back. We're going to continue this conversation about foster parenting, and we're going to talk about the book that she has written that will be coming out next May.
Yes.
Yes, if I got that
Foster
right.
Care Awareness Month. Yes.
Which is Foster Care Awareness Month. You know, there's a month for everything, right? So May is Foster Care Awareness Month. And we're going to talk a little bit about that book, why she wrote it, how she put it all together. And I have a few more questions about fostering for that show. So Nikki, I want you to hold on, hang on, and we're going to be coming back with that. I do want to remind my audience that in addition to Nikki's book, remember we talked for the last 2 books about some great children's books for you and your kids. Why I Get Into Trouble and Mommy Cried This Morning are books 1 and 2 of my new series, the I Really Need to Know series for 3 to 7-year-olds, where I teach theology to little kids, and then didn't see that coming when how they're living is not how you raise them. For those of you with adult children who are having their own fun issues right now, you'll want to pick that book up as well. So thank you, Nikki. Stay with me because we're going to continue this conversation. And all of my audience, remember, your life matters